Hello, this is R Rats with Team 4545 League analyzing the game between Catechus and Lowdown. This is the tiebreak round of Team 52. These teams were tied after playing through the playoffs and they get to go at it again. So it's 0-0 and let's see what happens. Okay, C3 Sicilian. So far so book. Should be an even game, at least for now. I'm sure it's a book move, but it's not one I'm overly familiar with. But I already played through the game and saw the intention. This next move by Black kind of surprised me. He drops his queen back. Didn't have to just yet. Why not develop a piece? But again, I don't know theory. Maybe there's a reason why. Maybe White's going to play bishop c4. But you could bring the knight to c6, put the bishop on e7 or even d6. Anyway, let's see what happened. And there's the point, knight c2 reinforcing d4. One of the reasons that I was thinking why often White ends up with an isolated pawn on d4. Maybe this is to avoid that. Okay. Okay, little exchange. Game is very level. There's one strategic imbalance already here in the position, and that is White has a queenside pawn majority and Black has a kingside pawn majority. Well, I'm going to prefer White right here simply because 3 against 2 move faster than 4 against 3. So it's not much, but it's something. Okay, bishop c5 and castles. And at this point comes what I will call a double error. Both sides make a mistake. Okay, what Black should do is simply castle, maintain equal position, and then continue getting his queenside developed, and White should do the same. Okay, now interesting move, bishop takes d4. Clearly what Black is wanting to do is give up the bishop pair to isolate the d-pawn. And White doesn't have to allow this. He went into about a 6-7 minute think here, if I remember, and played a bad move. Okay, White to play and do the best he can. Stop the video. Okay, you've come back. If you'd looked at this, obviously the move you would probably want to consider is c takes d4, and Black clearly can't run down here and take the pawn because there's a little tactic, which you should see. It's thematic in this type of position. White just plays bishop b5 check, and Black loses his queen. But White's close to winning this position right here and now, strategically. What White needs to do is simply play queen a4 check. Now this puts Black in a little bit of a quandary. Okay, got to get out of check. What do we do? Okay, we don't want to move the king. That's just bad. We don't want to move the queen either. That's even worse. You're going to lose it. Bishop b5. So that leaves a couple other moves. Knight d7 doesn't do us really any good. It just shuts our bishop in. So that leaves bishop d7. Now we simply take with the queen on d4, and White's going to win this. I'm sorry, 9 times out of 10 this is a White win. 2 bishops, outside pawn majority, and if you folks have been watching these videos I've posted this week, I can't remember which game, but one game was starting out favorably for one side, and he kind of made a few mistakes and allowed a bishop versus knight ending. And I told everybody, go look up the following endgame study. The game was Stoltz versus Kashdan, played in The Hague, 1928, and I'm pretty certain that was the chess Olympics. And it was a even-looking position, equal number of pawns, symmetrical, all on the same 4. I think White had 3 against 3, and then 2 against 2 on the queen side, and Black had the bishop, and Black just ground him down. And this game illustrates exactly how to do it. The bishop and king maneuver and force weaknesses in the White pawn structure, and eventually invasion points come, and the bishop finally converts. And if you know that ending, you know you want to play bishop versus knight endings. So it's only going to be a matter of time before white will trade off the light squared bishops here and be left with a theoretically one ending. Trade off the queens, trade off the rooks, and trade off the light squared bishops. Now there's a lot of chess to be played before that, but simply the fact of having the two bishops here in an open position, white's got everything he wants. So let's suppose black tries to improve his development a little bit, bishop c6. The idea is if white trades queens, which white wants to do, black gets his pieces active. White could probably trade queens here, but there's nothing wrong with just saying, I'll do the same trick. I'll trade queens, but I'll improve the position of my pieces. And if black doesn't trade queens now, he needs to keep them. What's he going to do? He could play queen c7. But white's fine here. He's got everything he wants. Just put a rook on the d file. Either one would probably be fine. Yeah, put that one there. Now, black can't run off and play rook d8 because white just grabs this pawn, so black's got to take some time to prepare that. Probably what black needs to do is just castle. And, if anything else, we can just put this rook here on e1. And, wow, white's way ahead in development. Black gets a tempo here on the queen. Well, no, you still can't do that. You can do it with the other rook, I guess. Okay, but, white's fine here. Does he want to play queen f4? Offer a queen trade? Where's black go? He really can't afford to just start trading down pieces. Eventually, white's going to be left with a endgame that he's just going to dominate. This is a clear win for white. Any grandmaster has this position against another grandmaster. It's going to take some time, but he's going to win. And you guys need to know these endings, and that the bishop beats the knight, and 3-on-2 pawn majority on the queen side when both sides have castled the other side is a clear advantage too. So eventually white's going to win this. Unfortunately, he didn't play queen a4 check. And let's see, as I said, I think he thought about 7 minutes, and yeah, that's what it looks like. It went down. His clock went down 4.5 minutes, so he spent about 5.5 minutes. But c takes d4. What's it do? It just voluntarily isolates the pawn. You don't need to do that. Clearly, black can't take the pawn, but black's not going to fall into that. You can't expect him to do that. And then black has this wonderful square, d5, for his knight to blockade. And black's fine. Black's got full equality now. White's given up his advantage on a double error. Okay, so let's see what happens. There's still a lot of chess to be played, but the game is essentially even. Okay, now there's some tricks. Black's getting active. He's on both pawns. Well, he's not really on the one on d4, but that could change. So b3. Now white's having to make little weakening moves instead of getting his rooks into play. The queen's still not developed. The two rooks aren't developed. Development, you got to do it. Black, he's still a little behind in development. As I've mentioned many times, look how often the black queen, either side, the black queen's rook and queen bishop do not move forever. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, it's like giving the odds of a rook and a bishop. Got to get those guys out. Okay, see what happens. Okay, there it comes out. And what's this do? I guess it's saying if you play knight d5, I'll put my queen on g4 and try and mate you. But black has time to cover that. Okay, so knight d5. Black is perfectly fine here. Rook e1, f6. And I guess the bishop is taboo. Yeah, it certainly is. If pawn takes, you take with the bishop on h7 check, and it's a quick mate. And I guess if g6, what happens if g6? You can take it, and white can draw, but maybe that's good for white. Maybe he should take a draw because he's messed his game up, his advantage. G6, the point of g6 is it keeps two guys under attack. And might not have been bad for black to do this. Let's just take a look, see if white had anything more. It can get a little risky here. Here, have a rook in the game, and you may take my bishop. I'm going to checkmate you. No, I guess black can't do this. Okay. That's always worth a look. You never know. If white wants a draw on your black, take it, especially in a team tournament. Then you get 2 out of 3 whites on the remaining games. Okay, f5. g7 is still a target, but it's a defendable target. And look how the scope of the bishops is getting reduced. This white squared bishop of whites had this really open territory earlier, and now it's hardly got any. And that pawn on d4, it's just getting in the way of the dark squared bishop. Yeah, it's on a fine post right now, but it doesn't have a lot of activity outside of that. So you don't always want to take the isolated pawn. But the game's still about even. Now, as I say, with an even game, probably the thing to do is not do what white did. If anything, just be happy with a draw. You could offer a draw. Maybe he did. I don't know. I was watching part of it and then I got distracted. But a4 is a reasonable move because the pawn was under attack. How is black going to exploit this? B3 is kind of weak, but we can hang on to that. Okay, knight b6. Well, if you have to, just let him take. We'll take back the rook, make some love for the king, and make sure b3 doesn't come under attack. It's kind of risky to offer that a pawn, I think. So there's no need to get rid of the knight voluntarily. Yeah, it isolates black's pawn, and the black bishop doesn't look all that great. But really, where's white's advantage? There is none. The only thing I can think of is maybe you can't play rook c2. You walk right into mate. Queen takes e1 is kind of embarrassing, but you can go the other way, rook e2. That guards the pawn and gets ready to double rooks, but, well, he can't really do that necessarily either, because black will take on c2 if he plays rook c8. If white doubles, black takes and still mates, so white's going to have to take, and now you can't play rook c2. You got to make some space for the king. Okay, h4. Why not? Okay, now the rook's ready to run over to c2, but it's still not clear how you're going to advance into the position because a2 is loose. But at least white's saving this game here. He's not losing by any means. Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, giving up the pawn, bad idea. Yeah, you get this pawn here, but black has some resources. Here they come. What are you going to do? Probably needs to play queen c4 here and just hold on to b3. That's what he does. Okay, but now black has the pawn majority. Earlier white had 3-2. Now it's true white has a center pass pawn, but a center pass pawn can be stopped easier than an outside pass pawn. So black has full equality here. Trying to find out what went wrong for black or for white. Ooh, what are you doing? Oh, it's pinned. Okay, but black finds a nice resource. Okay, attacks the queen. Now we got to do something with that queen because the pin is broken. So all he can do is offer a queen exchange, and now we got an oops. We've dropped that pawn. So here's white a piece ahead, but he can't hold it, unfortunately. Now black's, who one time was down a 2-3 pawn majority, is now ahead 2-0, and the game just falls apart quickly for white. It's a shame. Those two pass pawns they're just so much more active than the white's compensation. White has a 3-on-2 pawn majority, but even if he eventually can force a pass pawn, which he can't, his pass pawns are isolated. So what white probably needs to do is just try and run the king over there as quick as he can, but I think those pawns are too quick. This is kind of a wasted move. Now, I guess taking is too risky. I'm running out of time. The players can comment on that. And now that pawn just gets so far advanced, and black's going to win. Well, good game by black. White, you had it. You had the win. Just had to know the theory. I thank everyone for their time. Bye now.